Hi, I would like to welcome everyone to our KernTax 82nd annual meeting. First, I would like to thank the PM Video Production Class, Career and Technical Education Center, Kern High School District, Lisa Kirsch, video production instructor who shares her passion for storytelling, communication, and videography with the next generation of media professionals. KernTax is a member-supported 501c4 nonprofit corporation with the mission to bring about more accountability, effective, efficient, reliable government, basing its actions on common sense, innovation, and a long-term view. KernTax crafts positions based on adopted values. So one of the things that KernTax has been beneficial on for our community here in Kern County, utility rates. We work for more equity in the residential rate structure and reductions in the upper tier rates. As a result, PG&E's top tier rates declined more than 30% in less than 10 years. KernTax is a statewide leader in the battle for residential rate reform. And in school bonds, KernTax ensures school bond programs are focused and cost efficient. KernTax board members have participated on more than 30 bond oversight committees. At the state level, KernTax actively participates in the California League of Bond Oversight Committees. To date, KernTax intervention with school districts have reduced taxpayer bond obligation by $1.6 billion right here in Kern County. We have also worked hard on pension reform. KernTax continues to be in the forefront of tax issues for the citizens of Kern County. And our guest speakers today you will hear from three incredible community leaders who are the best of what they do. First, Ryan Alsop, Chief Administrative Officer, County of Kern. Ryan Alsop will discuss the county's strategic business plan and how it will be implemented over the next 5 years. Next, Michael Turnipseed, our KernTax Executive Director. It is time to modernize Bakersfield's archaic city charter. The current city charter dates back to 1914, 107 years ago when Bakersfield was a small town of 3,500. Lastly, Barry Hibbert, Commercial Industrial Real Estate Specialist and a KernTax board member. With nearly 30 years in real estate industry, Barry will discuss what it takes to get outside investors to spend their money in Bakersfield. Thank you again for joining us and enjoy our KernTax 82nd annual meeting.
Hello, and thank you to the Kern County Taxpayers Association for the opportunity to provide some remarks on Kern County Forward, our business plan for the next 5 years. It's an honor to be part of your 82nd annual meeting, and I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation to the KernTax Board of Directors, Board Chairman Kevin Burton, and Executive Director Mike Turnipseed for the work you do here in our county, representing the interests of our residents, our taxpayers, each and every day. Your work is consequential. The collaboration and at times partnership we've had with KernTax, certainly during the time that I've been the county CAO, has been both meaningful and appreciated. Working together, we can move our county forward. Kern County is an organization grounded in ideas, energy, and innovation. And we are a driving force in this state, the world's 5th largest economy. We are destined for a bright future, but it is a road not without challenges. We continue to struggle with anemic year-over-year growth in the county's sources of revenue, while the cost of running the county continues to increase year over year. We continue being whipsawed by federal and state regulatory and policy decisions, particularly regulations and policies impacting critical energy and ag industries, with detrimental impacts to local jobs and tax revenues. The problems of homelessness, mental health, and addiction continue to have a heavy impact here in our community. We're dealing with what has become a national crisis for our law enforcement agencies, where recruitment and retention of law enforcement officers is at an all-time low. A never-ending pandemic. There are other headwinds. We have no choice but to deal with these things head on, and where we are able, affect change and outcomes. Our county's strategic business plan for the next 5 years is intended to set high-level goals and objectives that guide decision-making across all county business functions to support clear, concise, and measurable outcomes for our residents, our employees, and our organization. As was said by the longtime and famed late American business executive Jack Welch, culture drives great results. And through this 5-year strategic plan, serving as the North Star for decision-making by our county's leadership and members of our workforce alike, we endeavor to cement and sustain an organization-wide culture on a single mission. And that mission is to exceed the expectations of the people and communities the county serves, changing the way they feel about government, those who manage it, and the service it provides. Let me tell you a little bit more about how we'll be working in the coming years. That very mission is rooted in 3 high-level priorities, calls to action or focus areas for our entire organization, which will direct the work of our workforce over the next several years. These priorities: to enhance quality of life for all Kern County residents, to be a model of excellence in managing our business and our workforce, and to develop and grow a thriving, resilient regional economy. These things will produce outcomes reflected in annual budget processes and tracked and measured through annual department performance goals and objectives. Quality of life means different things to different people in areas all across the country. Here in Kern County, it means public safety. It means addressing the out-of-control homeless problem. It means making investments in infrastructure where those investments matter most to the folks who live here. And it means continuous improvement in customer satisfaction across all of our business functions. We will make Kern County among the safest communities in the Central Valley. Over the next 5 years, we'll be focused on increasing and strengthening the efficacy of frontline first responder services throughout the county. This will require working closely with our sheriff, our probation chief, and our fire chief, along with their labor unions, to make sure they have the resources they need to be successful. We need to deal with recruitment and retention issues in our sheriff's department, which is a nationwide problem all agencies are facing. We need to put more sheriff's deputies on the street all across our county so that their presence is both seen and felt. And when called upon, response times are quick. We need to ensure that our firefighters have the equipment and resources they need to do their job, which requires regular annual investment. We'll integrate data-driven approaches that help us focus resources where they're needed most, and we'll build strong community and agency partnerships that reinforce effective and sustainable outcomes for both our first responders and the people that they serve. We're going to move homeless, mentally impaired, and the addicted off the streets and into help and housing. Our navigation center over on M Street, that effort is working very well. And we'll double down on those efforts throughout the county, working together with the city of Bakersfield and others. We're going to improve communities and neighborhoods across the county by specifically addressing the impacts of homelessness, along with continuous improvement of policy interventions that focus on direct engagement and wraparound services for those homeless individuals unwilling or unable to receive assistance. The Board of Supervisors recently elevated the county's approach to homelessness in these specific areas. Their plans will be implemented with rigor, and they will be built upon. And if we don't see the outcomes we're striving to produce, we will be quick change artists and pivot to priorities and plans that do produce value-added results, not just for those who are affected and afflicted, but everyone living and working and raising families here in this county. We're going to invest in physical spaces, infrastructure, and resources that elevate all people, all neighborhoods, and all communities. Part of this is continuing to build strong partnerships with community-based organizations so that we are providing real, directed, tangible, and value-added quality of life and health outcomes. Part of this is ensuring sustaining accessibility to well-maintained parks and open spaces in all communities. Another part is applying smart, data-directed, proactive code enforcement strategies that result in meaningful outcomes for the people living in communities all across our county. Quality of life is also tied to customer accessibility and satisfaction across all of the county's business functions. This is an area we will make great improvement in over the next few years. We will gather regular input and feedback from our residents who depend on our services to help guide our decision-making, policy recommendations, investment, and service delivery. This has already begun. This past summer, working with a consultant, we engaged in some polling activity across the county to find out what matters most to our residents, gauging their understanding of our funding challenges, how they feel about us, what services they value, and why. Over the next 6 months, we'll be asking others how they feel in a fairly extensive community needs assessment input process, building on what was learned in the initial poll. Simply put, we endeavor to be a model of excellence in managing our business and workforce, another key component of our strategic plan. We want to be a standard bearer, the best of the best. I can tell you, and I'm a little jaded and close to it, but we are among the very best fiscally managed counties in the state of California. It's because we make decisions that are based on long-term fiscal sustainability objectives. It's because we're using technology to improve and align business capabilities with resources, customer demands, and expectation. We'll continue to build on the continuous improvement principles of Lean Six Sigma to improve and streamline operations here at the county. Being a great place to work is the difference between a good company and a great company, as some smart business author whose name I can't remember once said. Attracting, developing, and retaining top talent is key to being a great organization. We're going to do the work to ensure competitive compensation practices are also applied and sustained for our workforce. Part of this is identifying opportunities for countywide compensation reform to enable more regular growth in take-home pay for our employees. This has already started. For the first time in recent memory, we have contract agreements in place with 11 of the county's 12 bargaining units that provide both cost of living adjustments and position our organization to never again be in the position of not providing more regular cost of living adjustments for our employees. It's really a credit to a productive working relationship and partnership between our county and the leadership of each of our labor unions. We're going to continue to continuously foster a countywide culture of innovation and evolution. Onboard Lean Six Sigma training for all employees within the first 6 months of hire, while incentivizing higher level training for employees interested in becoming innovation leaders within their business areas, is standard here in Kern County. We'll use annual countywide Lean Six Sigma events and competitions to improve business functions, solve problems, and to reward and recognize employees for innovative thought and risk-taking. Our last and perhaps most consequential strategic call to action is developing and growing a thriving, resilient, regional economy. We will be the very best place to start and grow a business in this state by developing and practicing long-term, comprehensive land use permitting and other public policy aligned with regional economic development strategies and industry preferences by strengthening and sustaining a supportive environment for entrepreneurship and business ecosystem development, support, and success. Also by continuing to promote and apply our advanced Kern and workforce development incentives to attract, develop, and retain new and existing business ventures. These things have worked. We've seen them work, and we're doubling down. We're going to strengthen and diversify our regional economy by ensuring and sustaining full implementation of B3K strategies on economic growth and inclusion here in this county. This rising tide will lift all boats. We're going to attract and support new business in sectors such as carbon management and renewable fuel production and innovation, aerospace, business services, and advanced manufacturing. Finally, we will continue to promote and support our position as a national energy and ag leader. This means further strengthening our position as the alternative energy leader among all other counties in this state. This means doubling down and strengthening our position as a national leader in oil and gas production through responsible, streamlined permitting, long-term planning, and industry evolution. This means supporting and advocating development of state policies on innovative water reuse, banking, surface storage, water capture, other conjunctive use that supports our position here in Kern County as a national leader in agriculture. I want to again thank KernTax for the few minutes today to go over at a fairly high level the county strategic plan. I think I've given you a fairly good sense of where we're headed. I want to congratulate you for all the work that you do again here in our community. Congratulations on your 82nd annual meeting. That's a lot of years. I didn't know Mike Turnipseed was that old. Thank you in advance for working with our organization, most especially. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the time of Mike. I appreciate the time of your chairman. I appreciate the time that your board takes to spend working with me and your attention on the county and where we're headed. Thank you for everything. And thank you in advance for helping all of us move Kern County forward. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Turnipseed, the Executive Director of the Kern County Taxpayers Association. Back in 2017, we got involved with the city because it was first discussing the idea of a sales tax on the 2018 election. As we did our research, we found a lot of interesting things that piqued our curiosity. The city didn't have any financial reserves, high vacancy rate of city positions among the employees, special project spending in some areas, and many areas of the city were neglected. The city was on a different path. When we started to look at the causes, it didn't take us long to find out why. It was the city charter. The city charter defines the organization's government, its powers, its functions, and essential procedures. It's comparable to the Constitution of the United States. The charter affects everything the city does. It provides the basis for most municipal functions for the delivery of services. A city should seek to revise its charter regularly for many reasons. Most importantly, to keep the charter vibrant and relevant. Cities change and cities go. In 1914, Bakersfield had a population of 3,500. By 2020, it was 403,000. And the metro area, which included East Bakersfield, Oildale, and Roseville, was 523,000. But there is a little backstory to the city of Bakersfield. Bakersfield first incorporated in 1873. Did you know that? The population was 300. In 1874, Bakersfield replaced Tavola as the county seat, and they hired a gentleman named Alexander Mills as the city marshal. And his story is quite interesting. The Bismarck and other people really didn't like Mr. Mills, and they tried to figure out a way to get rid of him. And they figured out the most effective way was not to pay their taxes, so the city wouldn't have the money to pay him. So when this all took place, the city disincorporated by 1876, just 3 years after incorporating. For the next 22 years, the city was run by a citizens' council. By 1880, Bakersfield had a population of 800 people, of which 250 were Chinese. By 1890, Bakersfield had tripled in size to 2,700, with people coming from all over to work in the oil industry. Now on the dark side, in 1893, Bakersfield expelled its Chinese population. The city reincorporated in 1898, and 17 years later, the charter was approved by voters in 1914, prior to the start of World War I. We have a picture here of what Bakersfield looked like in 1898, Chester Avenue and 19th Street. Between 1970 and 2020, Bakersfield grew 477%, from 70,000 to 403,000. Truly, it was a boom period. And the Bakersfield's gross metropolitan product was $30 billion. On this picture, we have a picture looking at a big vacant lot. This was the future home of Valley Plaza before, of course, it was built. And this decision was quite critical to the future of Bakersfield, because Valley Plaza started the decline of downtown by moving the shopping center, the vibrant area for shopping, from downtown to the Valley Plaza. If you notice in the upper right-hand corner of the picture, you don't see houses or commercial buildings, you see fields of cotton and alfalfa. The city's charter is 107 years old and must be updated. Our world has changed dramatically since World War I, and we must modernize the way our city does its business. We're not a small town of 3,500 anymore. This last November, 2021, there was a presentation on risks that the city faced by a very prominent firm, Moss Adams, who specifically called out as one of the big challenges facing the city was the city's 100-year-old charter, which is just antiquated and so out of date. To survive in the 21st century, cities must be visionary, cutting edge, capable, and politically savvy. Comparing Bakersfield's 1914 charter to what modern charters like San Jose, who just redid theirs last year, is like comparing a Model T to a Tesla. It's pretty simple. And the analysis, when you look and read both city charters, which we have, is they're strikingly different. The question is, what was our city leadership doing the last 100 years to keep its most important document up to date and relevant? I'm going to go through a few sections just to point out how out of date they are and compare them to what they were doing in San Jose. It makes a stark comparison. I think the biggest thing is to start with council salaries. In 1914, the salary was established in the charter of $600 a year. 1956, the charter was amended to raise it to a month, to raise it to $100 a month or $1,200 a year. As we go through, charters should not be specific actions like maintaining what salaries are. It should be guiding principles for the council to follow. As we look at the San Jose charter, we can see that they set up a salary commission, compensation commission, to base what the city council and the mayor get paid. And this salary is based on what it takes into account the full-time nature of the office, and which is commensurate with salaries being paid by other public and private positions having similar full-time duties, responsibilities, and obligations. That has not happened in the city of Bakersfield since 1914. The question of the mayor comes along. Our mayor has virtually no administrative authority except to break ties on council votes. It may not exert any influence over department heads, the city manager, or even any employee in the city. We think that the San Jose did, the mayor should be a member of the council with all the voting privileges. We think the mayor should have the following duties. We think the mayor should be the leader, the political leader of the city. We think the mayor should have the power to inform cities. There should be an annual State of the City report given publicly on television so people can see and hear what the challenges are and what the mayor's vision for the community is. In Bakersfield, the only other it's really not even a non-administrative item, is to promote and increase economic development and increase the industrial base of the city. The problem is the mayor cannot talk to the newly hired Director of Economic Development because that would be in conflict with the charter. But the mayor is the political leader, and it's the political leadership of the mayor that will help drive us to be more innovative and adventuresome in changing the way we do business. I could not find the date for the mayor's salary, but the mayor's salary is $24,000. I don't think that's what it was in 1914, but I couldn't find where it was changed. But again, if you had an active commission to set the salaries every 5 years, that's a much more appropriate model. One thing that was a little bit disconcerting, there was a section about the mayor, and it called for the conduct of his official duties. We've had two female mayors, Mary Kay Shell and Karen Go. That was amended in 1964 to include, I guess, his. So I think we have to make sure our charter is gender neutral. The mayor should not have to depend on the city manager for support. The only support the mayor has is an administrative assistant given to her by the city manager. That's not good work for executive and separation between executive levels of the city, between the mayor and the city manager and the council, that the mayor is so isolated and doesn't have the abilities or the staff to really function in the modern world. We also believe that there needs to be more independent positions in the city besides. The council currently hires the city manager and the city attorney, and so all the other employees are hired by the city manager. We think it's critical that the city hire a city auditor to go through and audit all of the things that are going on. I'll get into that a little bit later, including an independent auditor for the police department to monitor reports and provide the council with unfiltered information as needed. There's a lot of these things. It says in the charter that when the city manager makes an appointment, all appointments should be based on merit and fitness. And we think those are two noble causes, but it's more a question of what's your loyalty going to be to the city manager in the past. And we think this has to be rectified with some oversight by the council. Probably the greatest need, as I said, was for the auditor. We need an auditor that will post annual financial transactions, do performance audits on the departments as assigned by the council, do special audits and investigation as assigned by the council. The auditors have access and authority to examine any and all city documents. Another disconcerting part is that we do not hire our police chief on a nationwide basis, that we select them from the police department. I think it's critical in this day and time that when we hire police chiefs, we get the best available talent possible, whether it's here in Bakersfield or whether it comes from Florida or New York. The restrictive charter hiring policy was put in 1948 about the police chief. And so we've been going since 1948, so 70-some years we've been with this system, and it definitely needs an overhaul. The fire chief is also appointed by the city manager from within, but there's an interesting comment in the section 194. The fire chief shall be appointed without examination. Well, examination is a formal test of a person's knowledge, proficiency in a particular skill or subject. So why is the city fire chief the only employee that does not have to take a test and be examined for his competency? There are many types of municipal forms of government. You have strong mayors, council managers, city commissions, and a hybrid. KernTax would like to see a hybrid model come to Bakersfield, where the mayor and the council work together, where the mayor does become a member of the council, and the mayor has her defined responsibilities with her own staff that she selects, and we have the council that selects staff that represents their issues and their needs. The city must have the ability to recruit qualified candidates for police chief and fire chief. There's a right way and a wrong way to do charter reform. In LA in 1995, there was questions about charter reform. Their charter was established in 1925, almost as old as ours, and had been amended 530 times. But the mayor and the council couldn't agree on charter reform or what to do about it. So the business community went to the Rand Corporation to analyze the process and come back with some recommendations. Basically, the report said that the city charter had become an operations manual that did not suit municipal government in the current times. The report recommended a new charter that articulated a set of general organizing principles. Bakersfield's plan is archaic, unwieldy, and difficult to understand. We recommend that the Bakersfield City Council and Mayor appoint a Citizens Commission, independent of the Mayor, Council, and City Manager, to work with a consultant to review and recraft the city charter and come back with a proposal to present to the council to put on a future ballot. We've covered a lot of kind of nerdy, in the grass information today. A reporter once called KernTax presentations wonky, numbers-heavy presentations geared toward explaining how local government works. Well, that's pretty accurate. We're in the weeds a lot. Well, our tagline is facts through research. KernTax is the only organization in Kern County that gets down in the weeds and works on the minutia and still sees the big picture. Many times it's not the issue. Many times the root issue is buried deep within the organization. Many of Bakersfield's problems revolve around its 107-year-old charter. And I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me and Orion and Barry today, bringing in some of the stuff that you don't read in the newspaper and other media, but is important to how our city and county operate. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello, my name is Barry Hibbard, and I'm pleased to be here today to talk with you about investing in Kern County and attracting that investment to our community. So on behalf of KernTax, I'm a proud board member there and love the organization. And today I hope to be able just to share some of the insight that I've gathered over the years about what it takes to attract that type of investment or the needed investment to Kern County. So some of you who know me may be asking, well, why is some real estate guy talking to us about economic development and investing in Kern County? And my premise is that really industrial real estate is economic development, right? That you are creating that hope and opportunity by creating the real estate for whether they be big companies or small companies to be able to come to our community and create those jobs and amplify the multiplier effect by having core jobs in the community. So I'm very fortunate. I've been doing this for about 33 years now, which seems odd because how do you go from being the young guy to the old guy all of a sudden? But now I'm the old guy. So we're here today to kind of share some of that insight. I did have the good fortune after 10 years at Carpi Real Estate, I did spend 12 years at Tejon Ranch. And those 12 years was when we started, but nothing but dirt, right? There was nothing out there except an idea and a vision of Bob Stein. And so in many respects, creating that Tejon Industrial or Tejon Commerce Center was in fact economic development, and had the great opportunity of working very closely with both Kern EDC and LA EDC and the state of California to help create that job creation center there at the base of the Grapevine. So with that background, and then a number of other years in industrial real estate, I formulated some ideas, some assessments about what it really takes to get investment into Kern County and what we may need here, some ideas I'd like to share. So to start with, Bakersfield and Kern County, we've got some new thinking going on, and it's pretty exciting. We have this new B3K. They've come up with kind of a unique document here, and very comprehensive, well written, kind of goes from A to Z on economic development. Talks a lot about what we can do and where we can aspire to and how our community can grow. Impressive work that's been done there, and especially with all the input that was done. At the same time, the city of Bakersfield has recently implemented a document, which I found very interesting. The City of Bakersfield Economic Development Strategic Plan from September 15th of 2021. Now, this is a 132-page document. Wow. Goes into all kinds of details, breaks it down, talks about how are we going to assess the market, how are we then going to do a SWOT analysis on ourselves, then we're going to come back into and look at the clusters and what's going on, and then we're going to implement some processes. And as I look at those documents, there is some good thinking. And I think a lot of that good thinking is up here and is very necessary. At the same time, I think there is a piece of it that's a little bit simpler. It's what's right down here, right? It's what's at the street level that's going to help us get investment into our community. So from a simple perspective, what are our advantages? Number one, you have dirt, right? The city of Bakersfield and the community has dirt. We have dirt both on the outside of our community and we have lots of infill opportunities. That's something lots of communities don't have. You have labor. You've got an abundance of skilled and semi-skilled labor, and at the same time, that is arguably our biggest opportunity is to retrain our labor or to train our labor for higher skilled jobs. And there are some great things happening and have been happening for the last 10 or 20 years, starting with Career Services Center and the One Stop and how they've kind of pooled all those resources together and been able to help create those jobs or match up the employers with the employees. And really kind of groundbreaking work if you go back to the early 2000s where they took the time to actually say, what does the employer need? And let's get the employee up to that speed. Well, here we are again, and we're in this beautiful new facility for the Kern High School District where we are again elevating our jobs. So between Kern High School District, BC, and Employers Training Resource, we're on the right path for elevating our skills. So we've got labor and we're working on matching that skill set with where our natural opportunities are. The third thing that we really have is our natural location, which is we have a proven logistics model. Years ago, we wondered if we had that. Today, there's not much doubt. When you look at the companies like IKEA and Target and Famous Footwear and Caterpillar and Dollar General and Ross Dress for Less, and Amazon and Walmart most recently, there's no question. Logistically, we are in the right location. You can serve the majority of California within a one-day truck turn from our location, which is one reason you're seeing these large companies find their new homes here. So we've got some great advantages. So what's the problem? Why are we not growing more? And what do we need to do differently? Well, the first challenge is kind of the most basic challenge there is. It's called the ABC challenge. Do you know what that stands for? Anywhere but California. That's right. The number one thing in site selection is ABC. Anywhere but California. Why is that? That's because the regulation that takes place in California and the frequency with which it changes causes companies who are going to make major investments to say, if I don't have to be in California, I don't want to be in California. That's the number one challenge. Number two, what happens when things change? If you have a major company that's looking to make a $10 million, $20 million, $100 million investment, don't you think they'd like to do that with some certainty? Don't you think they'd like to know that if I invest today, the rules of the game aren't going to change 24 or 36 months from now? Wouldn't you think that's important? But that's not the case here, right? Sacramento changes as fast as the wind can blow on the bay. If a company invests today, by the time their permit is obtained, the rules of the game can change. That uncertainty is hurting us and our community. And finally, the lack of capital. We don't have enough money in our own community to create the jobs and the hope and opportunity that we want. How do we get that? Well, Dr. Husing, who's been a guest speaker at the EDC a number of times, talks about his gold mining example, right? Where the gold miners are mining for gold, they then take that money and then they buy the goods and services, which causes other companies to come in, and it creates that multiplier effect throughout the economy, right? So our gold has always been oil and ag. That's been our gold. And at the same time, we do see some downward pressure on those industries. As a result, a lot of the good thinking in these documents for B3K and for the city of Bakersfield look at diversifying that ag base and that oil base into higher white-collar jobs. Good aspiration, and things that we should be looking at and thinking about, and things that our labor force is starting to elevate towards. So the main premise, though, capital. Are we taking care of the capital? If our biggest challenge is that we don't have enough of investment, let's take a look at 2 case studies. I've got some fun examples for you. The first one, Joe. Joe's an entrepreneurial guy. He's developed unique products. He's sold them off to big companies. He's created lots of profits for himself and his family. And he is a guy who's been involved in Bakersfield for a long time, mostly through his hobbies. So he's not from Bakersfield, right? Joe is from Southern California, who has hobbies in Bakersfield. And that has caused him to say, I'd like to invest in Bakersfield. So very quietly, Joe has built some state-of-the-art industrial buildings here in Bakersfield on spec, which is kind of real estate slang for speculative, which meaning without a customer. Most of the time, that's a very risky adventure, right? Joe has taken $25 million, bought the land, and built 4 buildings. There's not a lot of people from outside that are saying, I kind of like Bakersfield, I'll invest $25 million. But Joe's done it. And Joe has, over time, had a set of experiences with the city of Bakersfield. Now, one of Joe's interests, horses. So, Joe is in Scottsdale, Arizona with his daughter who rides the horses, and Joe's on the horse rail, right? And he's looking out there and his daughter's getting ready to go in a competition, and Diane walks up. Diane, hey Joe, how you doing? Hey Diane, good to see you. What's your daughter doing? Oh, good. My daughter's up here. Yeah. Isn't that nice? Well, let's watch the girls and stuff. So they watch their daughters do their events and stuff. And at the end of it, Diane says, you know, Joe, my husband and I just sold some properties and we're looking for a new investment opportunity. I remember about a year or so ago, you told me about in Bakersfield, what you were doing in Bakersfield. How's that going? Stop. Right there. Joe's answer is economic development. Whatever Joe says will determine whether or not Diane and her husband bring their $25 million to our community. Here's the challenge. What do you think Joe's answer was? Was it positive or negative? Was it a great experience? Did the permitting process go smooth? Did people help him obtain the permits? Did people walk him through the process? Did we roll out the red carpet versus the red tape? Sadly, no. I don't know that Joe's answer to Diane is that he would do it again. Joe feels he's here. He has a lot invested and he needs to finish. But I don't know that Joe would do it again because of his experience. So we have all this great thinking about this economic development and investment and how to attract it up here. But yet, are we taking care of the root event at the base, right? Do we have a great, smooth process with certainty where somebody who wants to invest in our community can know that they can get from A to B to C to D in a reasonable amount of time without a lot of cross currents? The answer right now, for the most part, is no. Let's take a look at another example. Mike. Mike arrived in this community 40 years ago with not much in his pocket. Today, Mike has big pockets. Mike's company has grown, been very successful. And Mike has decided that it's time to take some of those profits and diversify. He's looked at agricultural and expanded into that. He's looked at commercial and industrial real estate and expanded into that. He has a number of projects that are going. Very quietly, Mike has invested $50 million in the community. Now, wait a second. This is a local person who has decided to take the profits from a core business and reinvest them into our community. So now Mike's up in San Francisco. He's with his core business group, and he's there having lunch. Somebody asked him, very similar to what happened with Joe, Mike, how's it going down there in Bakersfield? You still going strong? I know you talked about diversification. We just sold our company and we're looking for a place to put our capital. Would you recommend that we come to Bakersfield? Economic development. Whatever Mike's answer is will determine whether the next $50 million comes to our community. What do you think Mike's answer was at that lunch in San Francisco? Did he kind of slough it off and say, oh, it's okay? Or did he tell them the truth? That he's had to battle the city and the county repeatedly on nonsense things. Plans have changed, conditions have changed. Even a blow up over a subdivision map act issue that was simple as could be. So now Mike's looking at a new investment, a high profile investment that will really change things in the community. And his newest perspective, I'm not sure I want to do it because I don't know that I can trust the city. Okay. So we've got the city with their beautiful 132-page document, and they're talking about how do we look at what our current analysis is, and how do we do our current situation rather, and how do we do a SWOT analysis, and then how do we look at the clusters, and how do we come in here and implement? But yet nobody's taking care of the process. Nobody's really looking at the blocking and tackling in the trenches. What are the customers saying? Is the city and is the county focused on the customer? Or are they focused on the process? My observation is there's no question. They're focused on the process. They have no idea who the customer is. They have no idea how important that is. And they have no idea that all the money and time and energy that's being spent on economic development really isn't going to go anywhere until we fix the process. If you're not willing to fix this in your community, all these great ideas are just ideas. All the fancy language is just fancy language. It doesn't mean anything until we fix the process. So I have an idea. How about a bold idea? So we talked about the challenge in the state of California, right? We've talked about the fact that we have some competitive advantages. So how do we become an oasis of certainty in a very murky environment? What can you do differently? What if you had a great, bold idea that of course will attract criticism, but let's see what goes. What if you were to say, we're going to issue grading permits in 24 hours? Guaranteed. What if you were to say, we're going to give you a tenant improvement permit in 48 hours? Guaranteed. And what if you were to say, Mr. Capital, we're going to give you a ground up permit for a new building within 60 days? Guaranteed. Whoa. Think that might catch some attention? Now, we're spending a lot of time and money on fancy websites and slogans and everything, right? Tell you what, you put that ad in the LA Times that says 24, 48, 60, you're going to get a reaction. That can't be done, critics are going to say, and you're probably looking and going, Barry, you're crazy. You're not the first one to tell me that. Yeah, that may be crazy, but can you come up with one good reason why we can't do it? One good reason. Why can't we do it? Now, there needs to be some qualifiers, right? So let's take a look at each one of those. Let's look at grading permits. If you're going to submit for a grading permit and you want to take part of the City of Bakersfield or Kern County's program, you have to have a qualified engineer submit your plan. Great. Let's lay out the qualifications for an engineer. And this is where I need some help. Maybe you can help me understand. If I've got a 30-year engineer with their stamp on a grading plan and they're submitting, why in the world does it take 2 months for somebody with 2 or 3 years experience to critique that 30-year professional's plan? Doesn't make any sense. Better yet, we hear how there's shortages and a lack of experience. Why don't we do an over-the-counter grading permit where the person behind the counter can sit with that 30-year professional and learn what was important, and the supervisor can watch? Turn those grading permits around in an hour instead of 2 months. What a concept. How about some more qualifiers? What about for a tenant improvement plan? Assuming it's a new building, newer, and maybe a good place to start would be Uniform Building Code 1997 and newer, right? Because that's where all the structural seismic changes really occurred. As long as we're in that realm, why can't we guarantee a permit in 48 hours? We have a 30-year architect submitting a set of plans. Help me understand how and who's going to find fault with the 30-year architect who's stamping it, who has errors and omissions insurance, and they're the ones who are on the line if there's a problem. The building's already built, right? All we have to do is hook up to existing things inside the building. It shouldn't take 2 months for that plan. And if we're going to talk about a new ground-up development, as long as the current zoning and the uses allowed by right and it's consistent with the general plan, why are we spending 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get a building plan? Now, we are actually faster than most of the other state. And I actually had Andre Gonzalez ask me, who else can do it like that? Nobody. That's where the opportunity is. And our community is big enough yet small enough to where we can pull ourselves together and do that. Now, some of you may be saying, Barry, that's nuts. There's no way that can happen. I agree. I am a little crazy. And let me give you a case study of somebody else who was a little bit crazy and maybe how it worked out for them. How about Southwest Airlines? Let's go back. It's 1972. Southwest Airlines has 4 planes. They're getting pressure from their competition plus the court system. They can't make payroll. They have to sell one of their 4 planes to make payroll. So they sell it, but they also see if they don't keep their schedule, they're going to lose credibility with their customers. They are focused on the customer. So Bill Franklin comes up with an idea. He's in charge of operations. He says, you know what? If we get a higher utilization on our airplanes, we can hold that schedule. Why don't we turn these planes in 10 minutes? 10-minute turn? Bill, you're nuts. You can't do that. Give me one good reason why we can't. He and Herb Kellenberger introduced the 10-minute turn, changed aviation forever. All because of a bold idea. How did Southwest do it? They took the silos. The pilots, the flight attendants, the gate workers, the ramp workers. All of a sudden, they broke those silos down. All of a sudden, you had pilots helping the flight attendants clean the plane and straighten up the seatbelts. All of a sudden, you had gate workers going down. If the people were loaded and the luggage wasn't on yet, they were helping to get the luggage in the belly of the plane. They got rid of the fiefdoms. It became a team. Does that sound familiar? Maybe we have planning and public works and building department, the fire department, and everybody's kind of got their silos, and there's not a lot of great cross communication between the two, and there's nobody really helping a customer get through all the different silos. What do you think? Is it possible? Is 24, 48, 60 even possible to think about? And of course, that's just one idea, right? There's lots of ideas about efficiency that are out there. But we've got to think differently. We've got to look at the process. We can't stay up here at this esoteric level about economic development and not fix the core root problem, which is we're not taking care of the capital. So as I sat there on the Measure N committee and I watched the money going out to hire new people at economic development, I'm going, guys, wait. Why are we hiring 6 people when we don't even know what the challenge is? And we don't have a leader. Those 6 economic development people don't need to be working on websites. They don't need to be duplicating the commercial real estate databases that are already existing. They need to be focused on the customer. They need to go to Disneyland training and figure out how do we get a customer from A to B to C to D so that when Joe's on the horse rail and Diane walks up to him, Joe says, that city of Bakersfield is the greatest thing I've ever seen. You wouldn't believe how fast they got my permits. That's economic development. That's what causes these companies and other investors to invest in our community. Good website's nice, but it doesn't really matter if we don't have the root problem fixed. So where do we go from here? We have a challenge. We need diversification of our economic base. We're doing a lot of good things. Here's the good news. Our community is small enough. We have new leadership and new thinking within the city, right? We've had some turnover of department heads. Maybe that's an opportunity to change philosophy. Maybe that's an opportunity to break down the silos to where somebody in planning is actually talking to somebody in the building department and we're getting that cross-pollination together to take care of a customer. And we're bringing that customer in from one side and taking them out the other side. And they're walking out going, wow, that was a great customer service experience. That's how Bakersfield and Kern County can differentiate itself from all the other communities in the state and even become that oasis of certainty inside of California. That's how we attract capital. There'll be critics. There always are, right? And go back to the Southwest Airlines example. Who are the loudest critics? Braniff Airlines, Eastern Airlines, American Airlines, United Airlines. Braniff and Eastern have been bankrupt for years, long gone. American and United, in and out of bankruptcy all the time. And who has turned a profit every quarter since, except one? Southwest Airlines. Bold idea, 10-minute turn. So what's your idea for our community that can rival the 10-minute turn? How do we differentiate ourselves going forward? Where do we start to get creative and take some of the good thinking and great structure that's going on with the economic development thinking, but really focus on the core, really focus on the process, and really focus on the customer? So that when that economic development question comes, which is as simple as the conversation on the horse rail or the lunch in San Francisco, the answer is a resounding, oh yeah, you need to bring your capital to Bakersfield and Kern County because it's the oasis of certainty and they'll take good care of you as a customer. Thanks for taking the time to listen.
Thank you for joining us again for our KernTax 82nd annual meeting. If you have any questions that arose from either of the presentations today, please contact Michael Turnipseed, 661-322-2973, or email at KernTax@KernTaxpayers.org. Lastly, KernTax is a member-driven organization. If you would like to become a member and have direct access to our very diverse group of professionals, join, please. KernTax is fighting for everyone in Kern County, from Ridgecrest to Taft to Delano to Arvin and everyone in between. Help us continue to fight for the future of our children and join our organization. Thank you again. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.